the Veep. Um, okay, so hey, top fan Patrick Reed writes, I hear a lock at the door. Is it our cleaning service? It is. Excuse me one moment. Hey, how are you?
How are you?
We're good. We're good tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
So have a good night. Happy New Year. See you. Um, okay, so here we go. Top fan Patrick Reed writes, so with the changes in your life since your nuptials, uh, I, I I thought I had my nuptials removed when I was in my teens. I seem to remember something along those lines. Anyway, whatever. Um, and the selling of the long easy, do you feel like you've come to terms with the kid who only ever wanted to be a fighter pilot and an astronaut? Do you feel like you've killed the boy and become the man that you always wanted to be? Well, now I will be damned if that's not an excellent question, Patrick. Um, I'm proud and happy to say no, I have not killed the boy. Um, but I have found that he's not in charge anymore. I wouldn't want to kill that guy. He's a good kid, and he's a fighter, and he's dedicated and passionate. But at the same time, uh, you know, he's a kid. What I found about being married is not that growing up chases away that boyish quality of mine. It stays there, but it's not running the show anymore. Uh, and um, I'm very happy about that. I've always been very forthcoming about a lot of things on the show, and it's, I guess, one of the appeals of the show. Lately, when I say lately, I want to say maybe in the last 2 months or so, I've been undergoing regular hypnotherapy classes, and I've always sessions, I should say, one-on-one sessions, and I've always had mixed feelings about hypnosis, but I'm convinced it really is exceedingly effective. All I can tell you is that the reason I did this was because there have been a number of scripts that have been running in my life that are just plain destructive, or at the very least not productive. And when you keep doing something that doesn't, not, when you keep doing something that you don't want to do, there's probably a pretty good reason for that. And the hypnotherapy has been really effective, really effective. Not because you go into this state where you simply become, I will now, kill the president. It's just the results that it has on me is when I find myself doing something that I have identified as something that I don't want to do, then that little flag just appears in my consciousness. It just goes ding, Didn't you say something about not being so angry on driving? As a matter of fact, I did. Thanks for pointing that out for me. You're welcome. Back down it goes. And I calm down. When do I start clucking like a chicken, Matt Harris asks. And, I say, I've seen, there's a TED Talk on hypnosis. There's a number of them, but I saw one on hypnosis after I started getting the hypnotherapy. And I'm not making this up. These guys that do kind of show hypnosis, like the people that do Vegas shows, hypnosis shows, those are not plants. Those people are real. But what my understanding of hypnosis has been is that a guy on stage can simply look at an audience and within 10 seconds identify which people out there are likely to become hypnotizable, susceptible to it. And so I'm watching this video on YouTube, and the guy says, "Okay, well, I'm going to do this." And he got some people to cluck like a chicken, but he said early, he said, "I'm going to ask the audience, do this," and he basically said, just concentrate, relax on this, and then he said, "Okay, you close your eyes, and when I tell you, you will not be able to open your eyes. You will." No matter how hard you try, you will not be able to open your eyes. The harder you try, the less able you will be to open your eyes. And I closed my eyes, and I couldn't open them. And I was fighting. I was like, open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. Just couldn't do it. And that was actually incredibly cool. I thought that was just out of the park cool. And it was only when I said to myself, you can open your eyes now, when I countermanted the initial suggestion. I suspect I'm pretty susceptible to hypnosis because a lot of it is having a good imagination. I've always had a good imagination, ability to visualize things. Somebody said, why hypnotherapy and not cognitive therapy? I think I've gone about as far as I can with cognitive therapy. There comes a point when you get to know yourself well enough to know what your problems are, and you also get to know yourself well enough, if you have the courage to do this. It requires a great deal of courage, believe it or not. And there comes a point when you realize, this is what I want to do, but I'm not doing it. So why am I not doing it? And the reason is not because of it's not that I'm aware. Cognitive therapy helps you say, hey, this is a bad idea. You should be doing this. That's basically cognitive therapy. Hypnotherapy became useful for me when I said, you know what, that's bad for me. I should stop doing that. And I keep doing it. So why do I keep doing it? Why? And I don't know how much of this I really want to release, but I will probably go ahead and tell you most of it because it's what the show's all about. So I learned some very, very, very interesting things. And it's funny you mentioned the kid and the fighter pilot and stuff. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of gory details, but basically the short form is, based on my childhood and how I was raised, and the environment I was raised in, I have had in me from a very, very early age kind of a paladin, kind of a complex, a sense that I have to protect people, and a responsibility for people that I don't even know. And that goes back a long, long way. And as a result of some of this therapy, I found out the incredible degree of guilt that I was feeling because I couldn't stop these things. And that goes back to being 5 or 6 years old, and that stuff just stayed in there, and you keep fighting it. And the reason I'm doing the work I'm doing is because I'd like to save the country, and there are times when I feel like it is my responsibility, and I'm not living up to that responsibility. I carry around a lot of weight on this kind of thing. And I found to my utter amazement that what I was most emotionally driven by was the fact that I didn't have a chance to go and prove myself. I didn't have a chance to go and see what I'm made out of. You don't hear that too often these days, but right around the time of World War II, this would be a very understandable emotion. And I found myself like really just breaking down and sobbing because I wasn't part of the Battle of Britain. That's an odd thing to admit. And as I said, it requires courage. It requires courage just to look at the issue, and probably more courage to tell a bunch of complete strangers about it. But really and truly, I was just choking with emotion because I didn't get a chance to go and fight the Battle of Britain in a Spitfire. And my wife has understood me from the beginning. She's the only person in the world that really understands me, and I'm the only person who really understands her. And she put her finger on it real early. And when I had this realization about this, she said, Billy, it's easy to go up there and get killed. That's easy. It's staying down here and doing this every day. That's hard. And I realized that's really true. I never had a death wish because when I would drive fast, I would drive fast carefully. And when I would fly experimental airplanes, I would take enormous amounts of care to make sure that that I had the training that I needed, and that the equipment was in its best possible shape. And having survived 3 engine failures in single-engine airplanes, I never ever felt like my life was in danger, because I knew for an absolute fact I could land those airplanes anywhere. I'm a glider pilot. So it wasn't like it was a death wish, but it was a sense that I had it was actually a weird form of survivor's guilt, believe it or not. It really was. I don't know how else to describe it, and I just realized how deeply ashamed I was of not being able to go and actually fight, and so, without question, the most powerful thing that's ever happened to me in my life, the situation with Foghorn and getting actual Air Force pilots and getting an actual call sign was so deeply important to me, because it was so far ingrained into my mind. But actually, the most powerful thing that I've ever experienced doing the work I do came very early. I want to say during the first year or two, when I was doing eject. And I was just writing these essays, and I got a letter from a guy, and he said, Bill, I was, just so you know, I was on the first wave ashore at Iwo Jima, and I think you're worth a battalion. And I just completely was about to lose it now, It's like, wow. It's hard to believe it. I still don't believe it. I don't believe any of it. I mean, it is on some level, just the fact I'm sitting here talking right now is still kind of amazing to me. But yeah, so to answer your question, Patrick, there's a great deal about that mindset that I admire and that I don't want to lose, and that I won't lose. It's good to be a fighter, and it's good to have a passion for things, and it's good to wake up every day and decide that bad things are happening to good people, and I'm going to do everything I can to do what I can to stop it. Those are good qualities, and I'm not going to lose those. But to carry responsibility for it, and to find yourself kind of sabotaging yourself because you feel this sort of shame that you didn't get a chance to, that you talk about people who actually fight and risk their lives, and that you tell history stories like I did for the first hour of the show, and you're good at telling these stories, Bill, but you weren't actually there, and on some level that kind of makes you, an imposter. And I feel this very strongly, and again, I'm reluctant to say I suffered from it, because I know what actual people really do suffer from. And I guess this is a habit of mine too, is just kind of sometimes I just underestimate the I'm fine kind of thing. But I didn't need to be owned by that anymore, and that entire what's the word? That entire program, let's just say, was a program written by a 5, 6, 7-year-old, and I'm not 5, 6, 7 anymore. At least not all the time. Never could have done any of this without my wife. I never would have grown up without her. I look back on my life before I met her, and I don't know how I fit into that. I don't know how I fit into that person. I've just grown so much. I just don't know how I fit into the person I was before I met her. It's almost actually amazing to me. And this is what having that kind of love and support will do for you. It'll give you the courage to go and look at these things that have been down there. But I'll tell you one last thing about this issue. So the actual hypnosis is not something where I have no idea what this person said. I'm lying there. I'm extremely relaxed, and suggestions are being given to me based on what I'd like to adjust. And I wake up and I have this enormous stretch, fully awake, and then I forget completely about what happened. It's not like I blank it out. I just, like everything else, I just forget about it. It's like I forgot about what I had for dinner 3 nights ago. But what happens is that when I find myself doing one of these things that I am trying to adjust, I find that it suddenly enters my conscious mind that I'm doing it. And then at the very least, then I have the choice of deciding whether I want to keep doing it or not. Before, it would just be a reaction. I'll give you a good example of this. One of the things that come with my personality type is a real strong sense of injustice. I just hate it. I hate injustice. I hate criminals. I hate people who steal. I hate it in my bones. I just physically hate it, and I'm pretty much of a Boy Scout when it comes to following rules and stuff. So a couple weeks ago, we've been using a lot of Uber Eats and home delivery food stuff. We think it's just great. It's fantastic. So I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I ended up finding out that I'd previously placed 62 orders with Uber Eats, and I ordered this order, and I was busy. I don't know what the hell was I doing. I was probably on a train on Hurston someplace, and so the person texted me, but my phone is on Do Not Disturb, and so every single other Uber driver ever delivering food has come up to the door. It's a short little walk. Come up to the door, knock the door. This person didn't come to the door, waited outside for 12 minutes, then disappeared, took my order with them, and Uber Eats says, your order's been canceled, and we're not going to refund your money. And I just thought about all the stories about my dad and how he had run his hotel, and told the story 100 times about how he comped this dinner to this guy because he told me as a little boy I would rather make $20,000 off of this guy than $20 off of this guy. And so this Uber Eats thing offended my sense of justice enormously. And I had really, honestly, for a couple hours there, I was just going to launch a jihad. I was going to do a firewall about it, about bad business practices and short-sightedness and just all of this stuff. I was absolutely livid, and I was livid because I felt like I had been treated unfairly. And even if I had been wrong about this, and according to their policies, I am wrong about this, they're not required to come to the door, but I did say to myself, you're going to sit out on the curb for 12 minutes in front of my house, and you're not going to knock on the door? I mean, I'd asked Natasha to wait by the door since I knew I was going to be out of touch for a while. And I felt very offended by it, and the response I kept getting was that, well, we're very sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it. So you're really telling me you want to lose my business? How many orders have I made with you? 62. Well, I'm probably going to make another 62 within the next several months. You really telling me you're going to throw all of this away because you're not going to refund me this $35 order that your person didn't knock on the door and deliver? I'm sorry, sir, this is our policy. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to delete the app, and I'm going to just launch a Facebook campaign, and I'm just going to go after him, and I'm going to do all of that. And then the very next day, I was dealing with issues of being judgmental and issues of being that obeying the rules was to that degree was not healthy for me. Let me rephrase that. Was not healthy for me to expect other people to hold themselves to the standards that I hold myself to, which are exceedingly strict standards. And so And so I had this session, and I was going to delete the app and launch this jihad against Uber Eats. And I got home that day, and I thought, why am I doing this? You know? Why am I doing this? Technically speaking, they're right. It's not like they stole my money, you know? I was offended. My sense of justice was offended, and I was going to get my retribution by God. And if I had to call down lightning and thunder, then that's what I was going to do. And I threatened him with it too. And I just suddenly realized this is really, really childish. This is just dumb. You know, it's dumb. Let it go. And to my utter amazement, I did. I just let it go, and found myself cut off in traffic 2 days after this incident. And I could just feel it. You know, I could feel it coming up. It's like, use it. And then, because that was a script that was running. It was a button that had been pushed, and I was running the script that goes back a long way and is not good for me or anybody else for that matter. And as I started to get into that mode, once again, this little bell, like it's like a little thought just ding, you know, appears out of nowhere. It's like, really need to be this angry about this? Honestly, is it really, really that important that this person merged in front of you without giving you enough room or a turn signal? Is this really worth the stress it's going to cause you and all the rest of it? Do you really need to have your next 2 or 3 hours just ruined by the fact that somebody did something that you wouldn't do because you're a better driver than this person? Is it really worth it? And that's the power of the hypnotherapy. It doesn't make you not get angry or whatever your particular problem happens to be, but it does ring a bell when it happens, and it makes you aware that it's happening, and it's not just an automatic reflex anymore. Now it's a choice. And I don't always make the right choice, but most of the time I do. There's been a couple times where something happened and the bell went ding, and I said, do you really want to do this, Bill? You know, this is not good for you. And I said, yeah, I really do. I really do. I know it's not good for me. I don't care. I'm gonna be this pissed off for a while. But that's childishness, and it's a tough thing to let go of. To be honest with you, not just getting angry about things, but childishness in general is a tough thing to let go of. But you know, in 4 months and 5 days, I'm going to be 60. I'm not going to be 40. I'm not going to be 50. I'm going to be 60 years old in April. And that's probably old enough to stop running scripts that I wrote for myself that served me very, very well when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And I wanted to get rid of them, and it works. It really, really does work, but you got to be willing to do it. And finally, one of the things that this is an exercise that you can do, and I would strongly advise you to do it only because you are likely to be astonished by it. It's extremely simple. But just ask yourself a question, any question, like, why am I so disorganized? Or just whatever it is, just pick anything. Just write it down. Now, I'm not kidding about this, seriously. If you really want to know how powerful your subconscious mind really is and how much it controls everything you do, I couldn't be more serious about this. I cannot recommend this highly enough. It's not dangerous. Not gonna put you in any trouble or anything. But write down a sentence that you are interested in that's important to you. Whatever it is. Why am I having problems with my oldest son? Whatever it is. Write it down on the page. And here's the thing. It's called automatic writing. You take a pen in your hand and you start writing, and you just don't stop writing for 15 minutes. Don't stop. Ever. It doesn't matter what you write. It just matters that you don't stop writing. Just constantly writing. And you're going to find that the first paragraph or page is going to be real rational and real normal. You know, well, I'm angry at my son because my son, you know, doesn't treat me with respect. And you're going to list all these things that are going to start making sense. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hear something come up, and you're going to go, what the? you're good, and you gotta just push through that. You can't do it on a keyboard. You've got to write it out in handwriting, because it is the mechanical motion of your hand, and as long as you don't stop, there comes a point when your brain basically shuts off, and rather than reading a teleprompter of what I'm going to say, it just starts coming out, and you will hear things, and you will want to write things that will simply blow you away. Blow you away. And if you have the courage to write those down and you keep going, you will be amazed at what comes out. And what comes out is the stuff that's actually working on you 24/7 without you realizing it. It's running your life, and I think you got a right to know what's running your life. I was talking about, there are various exercises that this therapist does to deal with things like, forgiving people and dealing with anger and all the rest of it. But what's really astonishing to me, like for instance, one of these, I'm not going to get into the details of it because it just sounds more corny than it is. You just have to be in the hands of a good person, a good therapist, and it makes sense. But anyway, we were doing this visualization exercise about all the times I'd ever felt like I'd been wronged by people. And, so I start at the top, and I start thinking about what Media Matters wrote about me, about being a scientific racist. And I started thinking about all these high-level things, and the next thing I know, I am thinking about being at a bus stop in 7th grade on Key Biscayne with the Ferguson brothers throwing these tiny little ladyfinger firecrackers at me. And I hadn't thought about that for 50 years? Something like that. And so why did I think about this? How is it possible that I could have thought about something that happened to me when I was in 7th grade? How is it? It makes sense that I think about the Media Matters things. It makes sense that I would think about the things that I've been, accused of. It makes sense that I think about things like the Uber Eats thing. But why would number 3 or number 4 of the things that I remember when I'm trying to think of things that I thought were people had done me wrong? Why did I go right back to a bus stop in 7th grade? Remember it like it was yesterday. I hadn't thought about it for 40 years. Why did I go back there? And the reason I'm saying this is because it's still there. It never went away. If it had gone away, I couldn't have remembered it. But I did remember it, and I remembered it pretty fast, which means that it has a it means that it had existed in my head the whole time and was contributing to my behaviors to this day. I would be driving in traffic in 2018, going to work at the studio, and if somebody did something that I didn't like, then the anger that I felt at having these 2 douchebags throwing these little firecrackers at me was driving that reaction. And who needs it? Who needs it? So this automatic writing thing, I cannot praise it highly enough. If you do, and it's not hard to do, you just really have to just start writing. You got to write the question down so you know what you're thinking about. Start writing. The first couple of sentences or paragraphs or even page or 2 will make perfect sense, and then things will start coming out, and then you will run into things where you literally go, oh my God. I've had that happen to me several times now in the last several months. Just like, really? I can't. I remember writing one thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is really particularly, but yeah, I'll tell you what though. I was writing about something or this and this, this and this and this, and I was saying, maybe this, and maybe it'd be a way for me to make up for being such a rotten kid. And I remember thinking, no, rotten's a little strong, Bill. You were never a rotten kid. I'm editing myself. I'm starting to, I'm starting to I'm starting to clean up the act. I'm starting to clean up the reaction because it was so shocking to me because I wasn't a rotten kid. But out it came, out it came. Someone back there the whole time has been saying, you're a rotten kid. And you need to know these things. You don't need to, but it's helpful. So then you start asking yourself, okay, well, where did this come from? It's not true. It's not like I have any conflict about this. I know I wasn't a rotten kid. I was a good kid. But I felt like a rotten kid somehow, somewhere back there. And I have a pretty good idea why I felt like a rotten kid. And it had nothing to do with me. But you start to realize that things that don't get done in your life or things that you know you should do or could do and you don't do, and you don't know why you don't do them. Well, because you're not gonna do them because you're a rotten kid, and you don't know that these things are going on. And the beautiful thing about with therapy is it just, like I said, it just rings the bell. It doesn't make the decision for you. It just rings the bell. And that's just, a very, very, very useful thing to have. I'm trying to think of this. I just had one thing fly right out of my mind. There's another really, like a shocking example. Anyway, I remember. The things like the movies, and I could be moving faster on this video game thing. I'm needless to say, I've got an awful lot of work to do. But I could be moving faster on it. I say, you've been waiting for this your whole life. Why aren't you moving faster on it? Why aren't you doing this? Why? Why is this taking you so long? And what I discovered was pretty shocking. I wrote it down. It was just automatic writing. I wrote it down. And I wrote essentially, I'm not moving on this as fast as I should, because if I do, that means I'll die. And I looked at that. I said, where the hell did this come from? And what I was able to track it down to was, I'd always known that things like, big bad problems in movies and all these other things were things that I was capable of doing, wanted to do, and would have the chance to do in the future sometime. And that the final act of my life would be doing the things that I've been wanting to do for the other acts in my life, which is basically get out there and use all of my abilities and talents and have the tools I need to do the best work I could do in terms of storytelling and in terms of having an impact and making a difference. And I always knew that it was out there in the future, and I always knew that I knew in my bones that this was going to be what I was going to do with, this is what I was eventually going to do someday. And then I suddenly realized that as long as that is in the future, I can live forever. Because if that's what I'm going to be doing before I go, and it is what I'm going to be doing before I go, as long as I'm not doing it, I don't have to go. That's strange. And then you're confronted with, why aren't you doing this? And instead of not knowing, instead of just, I'll get to it tomorrow. Instead of I'll get to it tomorrow. It's like, you're not going to actually die, if you do this. In fact, just the opposite, Bill. You know it. Just the opposite. You have, like everybody else on this planet, you have a limited amount of time, and every day that you don't do it is not a day you get to live longer. It's a day you lose. And how you can't come to grips with fixing something that deep unless you are ready to first of all go and get the work done and find somebody to guide you through it. But really what it comes right down to is, are you willing to write down on a piece of paper that the reason I don't get things done is because I'm afraid it will kill me. I'm afraid that's going to make me die. If you don't have that courage, if you hear it and then you say, okay, well, that's not true, obviously it's not true, and you just blow it by, you missed a really good opportunity to help yourself. You have to have the courage to write down what comes into your head. You have to have the courage to write down, I was a rotten kid, not I wasn't as good as I wanted to be, not I was a no, just, that's what came up, and that means that's what I thought. On some level, it's what I thought. And I don't think that today. I genuinely don't, and I really genuinely don't. But these things go into your subconscious mind, and depending on how much trauma you've been through, those reactions are there to protect you. And generally speaking, the harder you've had, harder time you've had as a kid. I'm not talking about material hardship. I'm just talking about, emotional turmoil in your life. The more of that you've had, the more you've written these defensive scripts to protect yourself, and they did a good job of protecting you, but they protected you when you were 7. And there's no reason to keep running. I don't need to live my life according to the rules of 7-year-old Bill, who was a fine fellow, I might point out, and still is. A really solid kid, and I guess on some level this is what I do. Real early on in these sessions, she talks you into finding a place that's just really comfortable and relaxing and peaceful and beautiful. I went right back to the beach in Bermuda. Pink coral sand and warm water and clear water, and I could see a little pompano dashing through the water there like I used to, and then I'm just closed my eyes and I'm visualizing this, and I saw this shark approaching, and I remember thinking, oh crap, a shark, and then instead of having this reaction like, shark, I was like, go away, shark, and the shark just turned around and go away. What's amazing is almost immediately I saw my 7-year-old self, and I got a chance to talk to my young self and tell my young self that all the things that I didn't know how to do and all the things that were big mysteries to me and absolutely confusing and terrifying, that you're gonna get all of those things straightened out. And you're gonna meet this woman who loves you, and you're gonna help people, and you're gonna make a difference, and you don't have to run it anymore, Billy. You don't have to run this show anymore. I can handle it from here. And I can handle it from here because I'm an adult. And the relief is really pretty amazing. The idea that you can go back and be your own parent in a weird sort of way. It's almost like altering the timeline, It's like a science fiction thing where you go back and almost parent yourself, and it almost rewrites your own history internally in a way, because it goes back and explains to you things that you didn't know, and it's a very difficult thing to understand, and I have a very hard time explaining it, but nevertheless, it makes a big difference, and you realize that on some level, on a survival level, obviously I'm capable of doing things that a 7-year-old's not able to do. I can fly an instrument approach. I can produce the worst produced show on the internet. These things are things that I can do. But on some level, the fundamental scripts were written by a boy who's trying to figure things out, and most people, or at least people, it used to be most people. I don't know how many people it is nowadays, but people with good parents don't develop those kind of pathologies because they don't have to. They don't have to worry about how to run the world when they're 7 because they have parents that do that for them, and if you don't have that fundamental sense of security, you will find that you have had to take on responsibilities that are so far beyond your ability that you spend the rest of your life running away from them, and this is why you drink, or this is why you do drugs, or this is why you gamble, or this is why you're a womanizer, cheating on your wife, all that stuff. It's it's a lack of having had the security of knowing that you didn't have to be responsible for yourself and the world at age 5. Now, I was not in any danger of being thrown out of my house, and we were not dirt poor and wondering where our next meal is going to come from. But nevertheless, you know, that's the impression I got, was that this is up to me. I gotta figure out a way to fix this stuff, and I got to figure out a way to do all these things. And it comes a point when it's like, you know what, this is too much. This is too much for a 7-year-old kid to be dealing with. So I kind of went back in time, and I relieved him of duty. I said, you can come off the wall now. You don't have to do this anymore, because I'll do it now. So little Billy, you can go back and be a kid and play, and grown up capable Bill, with the help of his amazing wife, who's allowed him to grow in this way. He will handle these things now. And next thing you know, you're just an awful lot calmer and an awful lot more you just start, your habits start to get better. It is a time check. At this exact moment, the QuickTime recording stopped, but that's because I've been recording that and recording this, so I got to obviously delete some space. But in any event, I think that's probably a good way to go out. I can't recommend this automatic writing thing highly enough. If there's something that's really bothering you, and it's bothering you enough so that you can get it to a sentence, write the sentence down at the top of the page, and then just start writing. And there's only one trick to it. Only one. You never, ever stop moving your hand. You never get to stop and think about what you're going to write next. You just simply must constantly keep that hand in motion. And after 4, 5, 6 minutes, that hand's going to start writing for itself. You'll be astonished. It's great. Okay, well, I guess that'll do it for this 2019 premiere show. It's a really good show, fun night tonight. Thank you, Matt. That was a kind thing to say. Yeah, I might trot out some pictures of me on the beach, because I actually really identify with that kid. I mean, the beach Billy in Bermuda, we're like this. That kid had a tan an inch deep and blonde hair, and real popular in school and everything. And then everything just fell apart. And now it's not falling apart. Thank you, Simon. That's very nice to hear. He's a little worried about something. He says production quality is way up tonight. Don't make it a habit. I certainly hope not. I don't want to lose my audience by having them be so shocked and confused because the show's actually working out according to plan. But don't worry, Simon, I ran out of disk space, so my backup is gone. I suspect the original one's still here. That'll do it. A couple of quick things I have to do. Upload this show right away, and and people have asked, where do I find it on Twitch? It doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. It gets recorded on Twitch. It's infinitely better than Ustream, but I post them to YouTube, and I'm going to post this one to YouTube right this second because I don't have to edit it. So yeah, there you go. That'll do it. I'm going to do a little uploading. I might have a thumbnail or two I have to do for the right angles, which we shot this morning at 6 a.m. Pacific. But other than that, I'm on my way. So thanks for joining us for the Stratosphere Lounge episode 2. And by all means, get out there if you can and try and find They Shall Not Grow Old. It'll really, really, really change your life. All right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. I always like odd-numbered years better than even-numbered years. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's a class of 77. I was born in 59. I like odd-numbered years, and here we are in an odd-number year. So we'll see if that's going to make a difference. But I'm certainly ready to get back on the treadmill, and a lot of things just kind of, I just ran out of steam in the last month of 2018 and took 10 days off and light 10 days, and now we're doing a lot better. And by the way, we didn't miss a single show. That was my real burden, was not delivering product on a regular basis. But we've done 81 of them, Bill Whittle nows, and we haven't missed a day, and we haven't missed a right angle or a trifecta for that matter in 10 years. So that is the source of real happiness for me. Okay, so thanks again for joining us. I'll figure out what show number this is. I will post it on the YouTube station, and we'll do it again next week. There's a rumor that Natasha will come in and sit through another one of these like she did before. I will leave it up to you to persuade her in the comments section, which she's watching right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's too late, but I want her to do it. You want her to do it, and she kind of wants to do it too. It just takes a little persuading. So that'll do it. Thanks again for joining us. Good to be back. Again, sorry I had to miss 2 or 3, whatever it was, but we're back into 2019, and we have to trade the jetpack for Facebook. It's not a good trade, but nevertheless, who are we to complain? So thanks for joining us, and we will see you hopefully next week. Bye-bye.